was coming across and I was reading through the first couple of chapters of Radical at that point, and I was like, what can I use to preach on this day? And some things were going through my mind, and I have this big giant book right here, and I have a huge, I don't know how to really describe it, of C.S. Lewis. This is a giant book of C.S. Lewis quotes, basically. It's about 1,200 of them, and usually whenever I try and speak, that I usually use a couple of C.S. Lewis quotes along with this. So, as I was going through this book, and I was looking it up, trying to find a subject here, and whenever I'd open it up, it automatically come to this one quote that I have bookmarked here, as soon as I can find it. And no matter what page I turned, it would always flip back to this certain page right here, and my eyes would always come to this last word, or this last sentence of this one quote. And it says, "It is safe to tell the pure in heart that they shall see God, for only the pure in heart want to." So at that point, I began praying, God, what is it that I need to preach on? God, what is it that is here that, you want me to speak to this group? And so I came across with blind. And I was reading through, actually I think I just finished Hebrews at that point. And when I was going back through, I came across Hebrews 11, 1 through 3. And let me pull up the Bible here real quick, because I don't want to turn around and read it. Anyways, you can look along on the screen. And Hebrews 11, 1 through 3 says, "Now faith is the reality of what is hoped for, the proof of what is not seen. For our ancestors won God's approval by it. And by faith we understand that the universe was created by God's command, so that what is seen has been made from things that are not visible." We all remember April 27th, right? Now, on that day that tornadoes came through most of Alabama, and about 97 or so percent of us lost power, about all of Madison County. So, it brought me across to this story when I was thinking of blind. How many of y'all at night were just completely surrounded by dark blackness? Raise your hand. Oh, there's something going on with my hands. These must have had generators on or something. Anyways, it was so dark that you couldn't even see your hand in front of my face, or in front of your face, because I don't think everyone stuck their hand in front of my face, so excuse me there. Anyways, you couldn't really see your hand in front of your face if you were completely surrounded by darkness, so you kind of felt blind to what was around you, right? So, have you ever actually imagined being blind, physically blind? I mean, having to deal with that constantly, just not even being able to see lights of a Christmas tree during Christmas time, fresh fallen snow, the beauty of a sunrise and the beauty of a sunset. How bad that must be to not be able to see the world around you. Well, what about being blind to God? Not being able to see His will for you, the power that He has, His strength. I mean, have you ever seen God physically? Have you ever heard Him, felt His touch on you physically? Well, God is everywhere, and He's also, you can't really see Him, and you can't really hear His voice really, so kind of no. But have you ever thought of just not being able to, even in prayer, not even being able to feel God, being able to see Him? So basically what I'm trying to get is that let's take a step back here, trying to discover what it is that it takes to kind of get rid of our spiritual blindness. And our first thing is open your eyes. Well, that should be simple, right? to get rid of blindness, open your eyes, right? Well, 2 Corinthians 4:4 says, in their case, the God of this age has blinded the minds of the unbelievers so they cannot see the light of the gospel of the glory of Christ, who is the image of God. So, really, we can't see God because of how spiritually blinded we are. That's taken from Radical, and they use that exact same verse there to kind of go back and say it. And, when we say that, it basically means that there is so much stuff that the world has offered us that has caused us to be blind to really who created it all, right? I mean, let's take a couple examples here. Who is the God of this age? Well, that iPod. For some of us, Xbox or PS3 or Nintendo Wii. Nike, basically nice shoes, nice sunglasses. America's Next Top Model, definitely. When I thought of that, when I put that in, I meant beauty, having to deal with, looking how you are. I'm pretty sure some of you guys deal with that, right? Call of Duty, basically a huge one for a lot of people. And another one for some folks that have a complete idea what this is. Minecraft. There's barely anybody in here that knows what I'm talking about when I say that. Anyways, all that stuff was created by people here, and when we get our hands on that stuff, it's kind of hard to see beyond that of who actually created that. I mean, of course, the iPod was created by the people at Apple and Steve Jobs, but who gave them the ability to do that? God, right? Also, with blindness, there's a story of a guy, I'm pretty sure none of y'all have heard of him. So that way maybe the podium will stay up. Yes. His name's Saul, actually turned Paul. And what had happened to him was that he had gone through, and during the early days of the Christians, he would persecute them and kill them. Because he didn't know Christ at the time. And one day, as he was walking, a bright light appeared to him, and God basically spoke to him and told him to change his ways. And then after that, he was blinded for 3 days, being blinded by God. So, what it takes us sometimes to do is that we have to open our eyes and we have to see beyond what is out there. That we have to see beyond the iPods, the video games, the America's Next Top Model, Call of Duty, the fancy stuff. We have to see, there's more to life than just that. The next one is open your mind. And the verse that I have to go with that is actually Colossians 3:2. And what that says is, set your minds on what is above, not on what is on the earth. And basically, if you want to crack that open real quick, it means set your minds on God and not what is here, which is what have been said. And there's actually some stories that I want to go along with this. The story of C.S. Lewis and Brian Welch. C.S. Lewis is that happy, cheery guy right there. Brian Welch is that guy. Don't know how to describe him. But basically, C.S. Lewis, definitely one of the most interesting theologians, I guess is how you say it, I don't know. actually didn't start out with a Christ in mind attitude. He was a very, very hardcore atheist, and he didn't believe in God. He didn't think, there was more to life than this. But then it started to put on him to, kind of investigate what or who Jesus Christ is. And so as he began to see that, he began to question whether Jesus and God and the Holy Spirit could be true, whether all of that could actually happen. And as he was going through and he was reading along with the Old Testament and the story of Jesus, he began to see that Jesus' teachings in his life filled almost all of the Old Testament prophecies. And then he observed that Jesus' followers lived and died for the fact that Jesus raised from the dead after he had been dead for 3 days. And then C.S. Lewis began to realize that he is real, and he bowed and he offered just a simple prayer. And then he came up with several interesting books such as Mere Christianity, The Great Divorce, all these interesting books that he wrote, and he became a huge partner in theology. The next guy, Brian Welch. Does anyone know the band Korn? Anyone? I got a yes out of there. I actually hadn't come across this until yesterday, and I'd never actually really heard of this guy. I'd heard of the band, but I've never heard of him. And I just thought, my mind was that, Korn's just like this secular hardcore metal band, and you don't really need to get involved in listening to him or to them. So I was going on and realized I looked at his name, and I was looking up for a couple of concerts trying to come to town, and I was like, who's this guy? So I Googled him, and I came across this website, and it told the story of Brian Welch, and I found it to be extremely inspiring. And basically, to take a 7-minute video and kind of shorten it, he had it all. He had the money, he had drugs, he had everything he wanted, because he was in one of the best-selling hardcore metal bands out there. I mean, everyone basically knew who Korn was at the time. And his wife had passed away, I believe, of drugs, and he was left with his daughter. And what he would do was that when he was at home, he would set his daughter in front of the TV, and then he'd go up and do meth, and then he would still care for his daughter while he was on the drugs and on the high of those drugs. And he said at one time that he had just finished the meth, and then he looked up and he said, God, if there's more to this life, let me see it. And he began on, and he began to struggle with it, actually let me backtrack real quick. After he said that he began to feel love just completely fill him, and he began to feel fatherly love, but still at that time he was struggling with it, with drugs and with all the things that the offers of this world. And later on, when he finally truly discovered who Christ is and who he was, that he went up to the people of Korn and he said, I quit, I want to raise my daughter right, and I want to give my life fully to Christ and just get away from the past life that I had that was so worldly. And basically what these two guys did is that they saw beyond the world. They saw what was beyond there, and they set their minds on Christ and on God. And they saw him because he was there, and he had sent his Son to save them. Lastly, is open your heart. And in Hebrews, again, going back to the first verse that I have, Hebrews 11:3 says, "By faith we understand that the universe was created by God's command, so that what is seen has been made from things that are not visible." And I have two quotes to go along with that real quick. The first one you've already heard from C.S. Lewis: "It is safe to tell the pure in heart that they shall see God, for only the pure in heart want to." And for C.S. Lewis. And then my second quote comes from Augustine of Hippo. And for some strange reason, he's holding an apple that's burning. And it says, "God is invisible. He can't be seen with eyes, but with the heart." And to go along with that, what it means to open your heart is to basically accept Christ, yes, but we also have to see, with the last 2 points, is to see beyond what is out there. I mean, there's plenty of things out there that can get us, trapped up, to keep us away from God, and Satan will use those, and he'll say, there is this out there, there is that out there. And I mean, you gotta be crazy not to do that, because it's so much better for you. This is a better thing for your life. You'll have fun. You'll have whatever it is that you want. And truly, that's not really the case, is it? I mean, some people say that living a life for Christ is not having fun because you don't get to do what you want to do. Well, if you're truly living your life for Christ, then you'll be able to do what you do because what you want to do, because you won't want to do all that stuff, right? I mean, simply, right? Also, to open your heart means to have faith, because in our hearts is where faith is. And faith is believing in the unknown, and what is invisible. Faith lies in us when we open our heart and accept Christ's forgiveness and love. Then Christ is obviously going to live through us. And we have faith that God is real, and we're able to see what God has done for our lives. I've definitely had a struggle with having faith, because one of the number one things that had happened when I started My Journey Is His, which is my YouTube channel that I post my videos on, is when I had actually started it, I was expecting it to be this huge thing, like, people all over the world are going to see it. And, when I got on Way 31, I'd expected hundreds and thousands of views to come in, because, it's on big TV for the Tennessee Valley. I mean, everyone watches Way 31, right? And then I soon was disappointed to see that my highest views is 71, and then it goes down to 17 and 7 and 8 views, and I'm like, what's going on, God? Isn't this supposed to be, a big thing? This is supposed to be for you, I'm supposed to be getting this. I'm supposed to be the one getting all the recognition for this. And then it's like, no, you're not. God is the one that is going to change the hearts. You are not in control, but He is. He receives the glory. And that's what I saw. And then I began to have faith, to believe in His will and what was going on for my life to be what He has for me. Because I remember that I wanted to take control of everything that had gone on in my life. And then as I began to pray harder, because what I was doing was not right. What I was doing was definitely the most painful things that could ever, occur to me at that time. And then as I began to pray harder and harder and harder, I began to see, His love and His hope that He has And I'm pretty sure there's more than just that. I mean, I'm not meaning to just talk about myself, but there are many stories in this room of just faith and just hope. And I have a feeling that is there anyone that wants to share something real quick? Just open real quick. Well, we can sit here in silence. That's pretty cool. Anyways, we run out of faith sometime, and we seem to come to the end of the road in our lives. And what I find is that when we come back to God, we finally get over ourselves, that He will fill us up with a new life, and that some of us say, how can God accept me after this? How can He, I've done so much harm, so much, bad things in my life. I've hurt people. I've done a bunch of stupid stuff. How can God ever forgive me for that? And what we often miss is that God's always there, and God doesn't hate people, really. I mean, He hates sin, but didn't Jesus come down here for the sinners and for the lost? That's something that many people forget to realize, and that Jesus is always there, reaching out His hand. And, He gives us a brand new hope, a brand new faith whenever we truly realize that He is there and that we need Him more than we can ever comprehend. And